Welcome to the third and final video update, which chronicles building the new bulkhead as part of the Prosperity Point West Island projects. This work was done in July and August of 2020. We begin with a recap of the performed work in May and June, then move into the completion of the Tru Line wall. The project began with the installation of the helical tiebacks. A typical helical installation is outlined in red. These tiebacks serve to counteract the force against the wall from the soil and hydraulic pressure from the island. 83 of these helical tiebacks were horizontally driven into the island. These tiebacks will firmly embed in the concrete cap. This next sequence is setting up and driving each panel assembly. You can see on the right of this drawing a panel outlined in red. These panels are 16 feet long, and there are 420 to 430 panels around the circumference of the island. Each of the 16 long panels were driven to the full design depth or until they hit resistance, which was caused by subsurface rock. Once all of the panels were installed, the several feet of dirt and sand at the bottom of each panel had to be evacuated. Outlined in red is the area in question. There is approximately 10 feet of dirt and sand in the bottom of each driven panel. In order for the panel to be filled with concrete as it is engineered, this material must be removed. The process involved jetting and evacuating that material. Once all the panels were evacuated, the installation of rebar began. Each panel has two 20-foot long rebars installed as outlined in red. The rebar has two purposes. The first purpose is to pin the bottom of the wall to the rock beneath it. This helps ensure that the bottom of the wall won't be pushed out due to the force of the soil and hydraulic pressure from the island. The second purpose is to reinforce the concrete that will be poured into each panel. Approximately 850 of these rebars were driven for the wall. Moving on to the new work accomplished in July and August, it's time to pour the concrete into the panels as outlined in red on the drawing. To accomplish this, a pumper truck was utilized to pump the concrete from the mixer truck over to the island. This video shows some of the panels which have been filled with concrete. The two rebars sticking up will be integrated into the cap when it is formed and poured. This cutaway shows the composition of the wall as it now exists. Next comes the forming of the cap. In the purple are the dimensions of the cap. The cap is 18 inches tall and 24 inches wide. Right beside the dimensions, in red, is the detail of the stirrup rebar, which are installed every 12 inches center to center along the 420-foot wall. Below that detail, in green, is the specification to install 7 rebars horizontally. And finally, in blue on the right side is the detail on connecting the helical tiebacks. This is a plan or top view of the cap details. In red are the helical tiebacks coming out of the island. The next two photos show the detail of the rebar and helical tiebacks within the form of the cap. In the second photo, you can see a square plate on the end of the helical tieback that will be embedded in the concrete. Also, you can see the vertical rebar from each panel being integrated into the cap. This part of the video shows the process of pouring the cap. The concrete is pumped through the hose into the cap's form by the person in the front on the left. The crew supervisor is on the right, directing the process, making sure there is enough concrete for finishing the process behind him. The person behind the supervisor has a vibrating probe which eliminates the air bubbles in the concrete. Further back, you'll see the finishing touches being put onto the top of the cap. The cap was poured in 3 sections. Approximately 1/3 was formed and poured each time. The forms are reused each time. After the cap is poured and dry, the area behind the new wall and the old bulkhead was filled with gravel. In this picture, you can see the tiebacks coming through the old bulkhead and entering the concrete cap. For most of the wall, the gravel comes up over these tiebacks. However, adjacent to the spa equipment, pool equipment, and the building, there will be about 32 inches of soil on top of the gravel, so that landscaping can be planted to hide the equipment in rear of the building. The west bridge is being demolished so that the new utility bridge can be installed. Later, you can spot the east bridge, which has been reconstructed to replace the removed sections. The wall is now complete. As we fly around the island, you will see shell piled up, which will be used for final grading. The east bridge is completed. You will notice a green structure in the landscaping, which is a grinder pump to get the sewage from the bathrooms off the island. The pool equipment is yet to be replaced, but will have landscaping planted to hide the equipment from the land side. There is still a lot of work to do to finish the project, but with the completion of the wall, the island is now secure from any structural failure. This concludes the third and final video update of the project. Future updates will be via email.